I don't like how lightsabers look in the Disney era of Star Wars. I've said this before in short form, and seemingly quite a few people didn't fully get what I was trying to say, which is probably my fault, so here is a more thorough explanation of why I think that lightsabers look worse in 2022 than they did in 1999. In my opinion. So at first, with The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and the entire sequel trilogy, there was only really like one problem that I had with the lightsabers, and then following those series is basically just when the Kenobi series came out, a second problem prevailed. So the first one is that in a couple scenes, not all of them, you can really tell that they don't film lightsabers the same way that they used to. They used to have like a man-made hilt and then a green stick coming out of it, and then obviously the actual blade itself is fully created from putting special effects on that green stick, like any green screen would be used. But now they use an actual lightsaber prop like I've got back there, which seems like a smart move, right? Except it's not. Well, it is a smart move, but I just think they executed it poorly. I think that in a couple scenes you really can tell that it is. I think in a lot of scenes you really can tell that they are using a prop, and you shouldn't be able to tell that, in my opinion. There's a few small changes that also came with them using a physical prop rather than like the fully special effects one that I don't really care about. The main thing is that you can tell it's a prop, and it's hard to put into words why that actually like is a problem. But in some scenes you can see like the physical edge of the plastic blade, which you couldn't beforehand. And I personally think it was better when you couldn't see the physical edge of the blade, because it's not supposed to have one. It used to just appear like literally a sword of light, a lightsaber, not something that you could physically like grab a hold of, like excluding the fact that if you did try and do that you would burn your hand off. Just say that couldn't happen. It looks like you could actually grab it and hold it, but it is an energy sword effectively. That's why people can use like 2 to minus on it to like go through the blade, basically. Like the father in the Clone Wars, his hand doesn't stop on the edge of the sword when he's using 2 to minus. 2 to minus, by the way, is just absorbing energy with your hands, basically. It's what Yoda does against Palpatine. But his hand doesn't stop on the tip. He, like, goes through the blade because it's just like a sword of energy. So I just feel like the appearance doesn't quite match what the saber actually is. But that is only present in certain scenes, in certain projects, mainly the Ahsoka episodes of The Mandalorian and when Rey is on Arc 2, like you're seeing on the screen right now. But the next problem is a much bigger problem in my eyes. I can get past being able to see like the edge of the blade, but the second problem does genuinely affect my experience whilst watching Star Wars significantly more. And I think there is more people that agree with me on this one, and it is a much more recent problem, which is more worrying because it means that they've gone downhill. But before we move on to that, as we're talking about lightsabers, if you want to buy your very own lightsaber, then check out the first link in the description to Saber Masters, where you can find the exact sabers that I have, where you can get a further 20% off with my code. Check it out in the description. On to problem number 2. The problem is about the light that the lightsabers give off. Now, you've got to hear me out on this one, because this is where people didn't really understand what I was trying to say, because it sounds a bit dumb complaining about the light that a lightsaber gives off. And given that that short got 1.5 million views, I'm going to take a guess that some of you that watched that video are probably watching this one right now. I like the idea that the lightsabers now give off much more light than they used to. In many scenes in the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, or basically like all of the scenes where lightsabers are used, they don't really give off any like glow of colour around them, which you'd think they will. And I'm glad they've changed it so they give off a bit of light. They give off too much, in my opinion. Like in Kenobi, when he ignites his blue lightsaber, I'm glad that some things around him become a little bit blue. And he becomes a little bit blue. But he doesn't just become a little bit blue, he becomes fully blue and everything around him becomes blue. And this is genuinely only a problem in Kenobi. Like in The Mandalorian, when Luke arrives and has his hallway scene, like it's still relatively dark, yet the green isn't like overpowering the entire scene. For Ahsoka's white lightsabers in the forest, like the whole forest doesn't become white. But when Vader and Obi-Wan are fighting, everything around them just seems like blue and red. I mean, in the sequel trilogy, specifically The Rise of Skywalker, there is literally a scene where Rey holds up her lightsaber, using it as a source of light to guide them through the caves, and the light it gives off is nowhere near as strong as it is in the Kenobi series. So regardless of the fact that it's like an inconsistency with lightsabers, because like I said, I'm a fan that they now give off some light, it just genuinely looks worse in my eyes. I mean, the fights in the Kenobi series were like hard enough to see what's going on as it is, as like they were in a dark environment the whole time. But then when everything around them's being lit up blue and red, it just made it a little bit harder. I actually think that Disney had it bang on in the sequel trilogy. Like the fight with Rey and Kylo in the forest was fantastic. Like when Rey ignites her saber there's a bit of blue on her face. When Kylo's got his red lightsaber, there's some red on the snow on the floor. But even despite it being dark, because Starkiller Base literally drained power from the sun, the blue and red isn't overpowering the scene at all. You've got a little glow on the people that are holding the sabers and a little glow on the environment around them, but nothing too crazy, and it is genuinely perfect. Ultimately, I am complaining about the amount of light a lightsaber gives off. There is much bigger problems and things they should be focusing on, like so much more, such as, you know, the actual like writing, the story, the dialogue, the acting, etc, etc. But this was just something that stood out to me, and I wanted to talk about it because, I mean, the last time I did, people seemed to listen. Another thing that's more important is not creating plot holes and fitting stories within canon, because there's so many comics, there's so many movies and series. Sometimes it's hard, and a lot of people think that the Kenobi series failed to do that. Well, here's proof that they didn't fail and that the Kenobi series has no plot holes. So check it out. Like I said, if you want to buy your own lightsabers, first link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, comment, share, etc, etc. Subscribe for more Star Wars. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all, and goodbye.